Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
Midway USA brand product designers have one straightforward goal: develop high-quality, technically sound products and deliver them to customers at reasonable prices. If you are immersed in the shooting sports industry and pay close attention to every single detail, you know our products are built right and stand up to everyday use. Who has shooting mats and range bag systems to hunting clothing and just about everything for the outdoors? Log on and shop 24/7 with super fast shipping. MidwayUSA.com.
Want to plan your next fishing trip without the hassle? FishingBooker.com is the best way to find and book a fishing charter anywhere in the world. Whether you're chasing trophy fish or just looking for a family day on the water, Fishing Booker makes it simple, fast, and secure. With thousands of experienced guides, verified reviews, and 24/7 customer support, Fishing Booker takes the guesswork out of planning. Visit FishingBooker.com and book your trip today. Fishing Booker. Fishing trips made easy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. This week's podcast, we have Nate Rozeveld from Michigan Wild. We're just going to kind of BS, talk about upcoming tack, kind of what's going on for the non-kind of bow hunting. You know, Nate's podcast is Michigan Wild, so it's all things to do this time of year. So just going to get a take on kind of what people are doing or what's getting him excited for this time of year from a non-only deer hunting 24/7 mindset. So I know you guys are going to love this episode. Nate's super fun, great conversation. Really looking forward to this one. As always, thanks for listening. We're trying something new on this one, so Spotify and Megaphone, who we host with, is allowing us to do video now. So I'm going to try and upload this as a video podcast, and we'll see. So give us some feedback. Hope to see you guys at Muskegon Bowman fundraiser dinner this weekend. Going to be great fun. Excellent prizes. Great stuff. I mean, everybody that's involved with the podcast, Vitalize, I just got a thing from them, Huntworth, Latitude, everybody is just Genesis 3D. I could go on and on, Painted Arrow, but tons of great prizes. We got a water feather donated. So if you're in the area and you don't have anything going on this Saturday, definitely stop by and check out the Muskegon Bowman and help to donate some money. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. We just tried to do the intro right on here without Nate, so we'll see how that shows up after this. Trying to do this video stuff in one shot is all new. But Nate Rozeveld, Michigan Wild podcast. I feel like I talk to Nate every day now, so this is just a continuation of our conversation from earlier. So how are you doing today, Nate?
Hey, pretty good. I think I got a little sunburn, though, helping you out today. My neck's feeling a little red, but it don't take much for me to get that. But, yeah, hopefully this video stuff works for you. If anyone listens to me on Michigan Wild, like you kind of joked before, the gremlins show up on tech with me. So I'm hoping everything goes well for you.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. But, you know, as we're getting into spring and, you know, it I guess green up, and it's funny because I was listening to a podcast and Jake was talking about, you know, waiting for green up a little bit to do some scouting and stuff like that. And it seems like everybody's like pretty much done. I mean, I'm one of those idiots that I'm out like in July just because of like where the property is and like proximity to like the public land that I hunt and scout. I do a lot of wandering around out there, and it's always hot and buggy and miserable. And so I see why people do it earlier, but with like spring green up, we're into turkey season, and with you being like the Michigan Wild branded, like casting a wider net, like what's going on with you? Like what's on your radar for like this time of year?
Yeah, so, you know, for me, I rabbit hunt with the Beagles until like March 31st, so that kind of wrapped up, and we usually go right to the bitter end with that. And sometimes I'll run the dogs even after, because I think we can run our beagles or hounds until like April 15th. I think tax day is kind of like when quiet season starts. We're not allowed to run them until, I want to say, like sometime maybe July, but it's always so hot I don't even think about really running the dogs again. So yeah, now that kind of just, it's only we're just almost, third week of April here. So it's kind of like once rabbit season got done, it was more of like, okay, take a deep breath. Like, do I have time to start, maybe hit some spots that I haven't, shed hunted yet? Really worked on getting all my trail cameras, taken care of. I still got like 4 out I got to get to. And then that kind of coincides with turkey startup and soccer games and practices. But from like an outdoor perspective, it's kind of like, okay, is there any other scouting I want to do? Because and typically the scouting I'm like thinking of right now, like, I'm not a huge scouter, right? Like, I do a lot of in-season scouting. I do like some years I'll scout more than others, just depending on what I got going on work-wise. But like this year is pretty light in the scouting department. So if I do, when I go get my other cameras, check those out. But then also I'm like looking for like any sort of potential telltale sign that some deer made it, into this year. Which that could be just like maybe diving into some areas that I can maybe shed hunt, but I can't necessarily hunt, or looking for big tracks, or just because like right now, if I find like a big set of tracks, I'm like, okay, someone made it. I might not know who, but like I'm intrigued. So that's kind of where my headspace is. Summertime scouting, not a fan. Like that's not me. And I'm just gearing up for, spring food plots too. And getting ready for, food plot season is kind of on my radar right now.
So one of the things with that is you said you're looking for deer that have telltale signs that deer have made it. What does that look like for you outside of, and it's weird because you don't hunt public. So you have like all of these properties to inventory. Are you working on acquiring new properties? Are you driving around and doing glassing? Obviously right now there's nothing, but like as the year progresses, like is that part, or is it just all trail cameras?
So like trail cameras can be a pretty big thing for me, but like this year I've kind of like a lot of my cameras died because of maybe solar panels or whatever. And I'm also like transitioning into like different cams. So a lot of times I've left like cameras up, 24/7. So this year's a little different, but like, even though you said like glassing, and like when I'm driving around sections, like I want to see, I feel like I'm pretty good at like, okay, there's a group of does, or like that could potentially be a buck, and you just, glass them up and kind of just take a peek at them and say, okay, yep, there's a core group of bucks there, and just trying to see what kind of made it. Cause the EHD hit pretty hard this year. So like the one area it got decimated in like October, which was, I thought I was in the clear, and then October came and I was seeing deer one week and then never seen them again. They died shortly after. Neighbors found them shortly after. So like a lot of those areas, it's just like, okay, what has made it? And so if I'm fine, like, so in my head, I'm like, okay, if I go into an area, I know EHD killed a lot of deer, some target deer and stuff like that. It's like, okay, is there rut sign? Is there an area where bucks laid down, big sign like tall rubs, or is there some really active scrapes? And then if I find those, like, okay, there was a buck in here in rut, which granted there's still a good chance that a neighbor could have shot him since then. But then if I find those big signs, and also I'm still finding like big tracks in that general area, I'm like feeling pretty good. Like, okay, like I definitely got to put some intel here. But you got to think too, like I'm hunting ag country, like you've kind of seen where I hunt, like there is a lot of room for deer to go. There's a lot of options, but also like a deer doesn't really have to move far. Like, there's summer ranges and there's fall ranges, but like these are all within like relative proximity to each other. So I don't have to deal with like, oh, this area is just void. Like there's deer there almost 24/7. So I kind of learned where they like to be certain times a year. And I fortunately got permission pieces kind of all scattered throughout. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm like looking at. Like, okay, and if I find a shed or two too, that'd be awesome. But it's just been a lot of dead deer is all I've been finding this spring. So I guess that's kind of like my headspace is, if I find big sign, which can mean anything, kind of depending on your area, and then I'm finding like big tracks, I'm like, okay, that's a win, because I honestly, like, it's like, seems like every week I get a picture of a neighbor with a big dead deer. So it's like, I don't really know what, 2025 is going to bring it in that specific area.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's such a weird, like, it's so different for me, like, just even like where to start. Like, for me, like, driving up today, like, I was like literally stopping where I saw a deer cross the road on public and just like marking, like, okay, something's going on here. There's deer here, like, to go back and check. And it's funny because year over year, I have those same pins, like, on the same road, that I haven't gone and checked yet. And it's just, it's not like I'm looking for anything. And it's funny because, like, I wasn't even, like, the whole thing is like not what happens, like, not during deer season, right? And you're like, deer. and that's what I think is kind of like funny, because I know you enough to know that that's like, you're like, oh, I like to rabbit hunt and I like deer hunting. Like, it's like I want to be so spread out wide, but like it's deer and rabbits, it seems like. Yeah.
I mean, deer season's always in the mind. Like, it's pretty tough to not be thinking about deer. But like, I'm more interested in killing a deer than I am like finding a shed. So like, for me, it's like, okay, I can still think of deer while I rabbit hunt. Like, I go every weekend pretty much, like, throughout the season, occasional evenings or maybe a day here and there during the week, but primarily weekends. And don't get me wrong, like, some of those areas, like, there's a spot I got this year, I got a new permission piece to rabbit hunt, and I kind of knew the area, and I found a really nice shed on that property this year, actually. It's an old shed, though, but it confirms the suspicions I had, and it can guarantee me that's one of the properties I'm working on permission to be able to bow hunt that. So it's kind of twofold with that. And, like, I tried to cast a wide net. So, like, for me, I feel like with Michigan Wild, I knew I kind of lacked in the fishing department. Like, that was, like, one of my weaknesses. I fished as a kid and did those things, but, like, I kind of easing into the fishing thing. And like right now, or last little bit, a lot of my buddies been catching some sweet fish in the rivers. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of intrigued. I might want to do that. But like, I got to like ease into it. So like, for me to be well-rounded, it's like, okay, I'm adding fishing to the docket. Like last year we bought an old boat and doing those things. But like, for me to like go fishing in July, kind of tough to like do anything deer-wise in July, right? Like, so it's pretty easy to me to be like, oh, I can fill that time with fishing.
Yeah, it's funny, like, for guys that listen to this show and like know me when I talk about like me going fishing. This past weekend, like, there was a sucker fishing tournament up on one of the rivers, and so my buddies were up there, and my one friend wanted Stella to be on a team with his grandson. So it was like for the kids. So we got up there, we got Stella fishing. And I'm thinking, like, he's going to be helping her, all this stuff. And mind you, I don't have a fishing license. So I'm like, I'm completely hands off. And they're like, hey, can you watch that rod? Like, and then all of a sudden Stella's gone. And I'm like, oh shit. So I had to like pull out my phone. Like, I was like, I'm getting a fishing license like right now. And then she was casting a steelhead rod. And she did that for probably 3 or 4 hours straight. And she looks at me and she goes, Dad, I'm going to ask you a question. I already know the answer, but hunting or fishing? And I was like, hunting. And she goes, I think I might be more into fishing. She goes, I'm a yapper. She goes, I like to talk, and I talk with my hands. And when you're hunting, you gotta like move slow. And I was like. But again, like, that's something that I wanted to ask you about, because like, from the Michigan Wild standpoint, like, there's more to fishing. There's more than just deer and rabbits. And I know you talk to everybody like across the board, but it seems to be that there's like a really underlying thread there. So
yeah, like, I got no clue how to like river fish, like, at all. I have some buddies that like doing it. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, I don't even know if I've caught 5 fish out of a river. Kind of like I've barely done it, if at all. I think I caught like a catfish one time, maybe a couple little like, I don't know if they're called chubs or whatever they are when I was a kid, maybe. So I'm like really void of that, but I do enjoy talking to people. And it seems like every year I've done the podcast, I always try to, talk to some guys like the fly fish or whatever. It's like, oh, it's really intriguing to me. It's just a matter of like allocating the time for it. And so like right now it's a lot easier for me to just, I bought the old school bass boat, and we can go as a family out in any one of the lot of lakes that are around me, and we can catch whatever. Like that's pretty easy, like level of entry for me to get in. My little guy likes doing it. Wife loves fishing. So that's a fun family thing to do. So I'm kind of like slowly learning how to do that. I don't even have like a fish finder or anything like that on the boat, but it's fun to go out there. I know little man, he started fishing without a bobber. So he was pretty excited, just a weight and a hook with a worm. And like, it was like one day he was kind of struggling to catch stuff, and I was like, man, I kind of remember one time my grandpa, we caught some fish like in deeper water doing this, and I like took the bobber off and kind of explained to him how to do it. Man, he started catching fish, and he was having the time of his life. So, and that's just, I'm slowly learning, but man, I don't, like if someone's like, yeah, dude, you can't fish ever again or you can't hunt ever again, like, dude, it's not even a question. Like fishing's cool, but like not that cool to me.
Yeah,
but it passes the time. It's fun to do in the summertime.
Yeah, so like when I first started dating my wife, and obviously, Frank, like he, worked at the sports shop. He was into all of it for forever. And obviously John fishes. Like John, if given the same thing, John would say, well, I'll never hunt again. I'll just rather fish. Mm-hmm. And but I don't want to say that I love river fishing, but I really enjoy it. It's just like there's so much other stuff to do, and I had to give up something. But like I've caught, tons and tons of trout, steelhead, salmon out of the river, and being in the river and the waders, and it's kind of like being at a deer stand, I guess. Like when the weather's nice or even like cool like it is now. And then it starts to warm up. Like it would be illegal to do it right now because trout opens this weekend. But being in the river and waders, like when the sun comes up and there's the steam coming up off the river and all that stuff it's really cool. And then you catch some good fish here and there. But it's just, I don't know, if you don't have like a spot to go or whatever, where you're fighting people or getting yelled at by, kind of the stuff we were talking about today at the property about people who think they own the river and everything, in it. If you don't have like a nice quiet spot, it can be tough. And, and then if you're just catching chubs all day, it's nice when you're just catching fish, but yeah, I don't know. But like my brother's super into it. Like they've been doing trout camp for probably the last 20 years. And he's like, I'm not going to the Bowman's dinner. You're doing it on the trout opener. Like, that's
what I have buddies the same thing. They're going because of that. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know. Like I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, didn't even register. Next year we know better. So, but yeah, it's kind of interesting for people who listen to this and they're just like, you used to fish? Like, yeah, I've caught fish. There's lots of things that I used to do.
I've heard some funny stories about you and fishing, so I could relate to that. I think for me, like I've always been really busy, right? Like work wise. So I've always had like allocate time, and then, get married at a younger age and, have a kid and stuff. It's like, okay, I'm just coming out of deer season. And then like, I kind of push the envelope a little bit by going right into rabbit hunting pretty, at least it's one day for a few hours, every weekend, or try to. So it's like, I kind of got to like settle down. Like, so like when fishing ramps, it's like, okay, like now it's springtime, like work's gotten busy again. The weather's kind of turning. It's just like, hey, I can just have that disconnect. Like for me, I've caught some decent bass like growing up. Like I don't know, to me, like over 20 inches, right? Like I've fished some. When I was a kid, I fished a lot of a lake right down the road, and I catch tons of bluegill with a fly rod, and like I did that whole thing. To me, it's like a fish is a fish. Like, so I haven't really, and I kind of struggle with this with turkeys too a little bit. Like there's not like I guess fish can be different sizes, but like a largemouth bass is a largemouth bass. Like a 16-inch bass or an 18-inch bass, like they kind of look the same, right? And turkeys are kind of the same thing. Like all toms are kind of like look the same. They're not really that unique. So it's like I had a question with some of my buddies. I'm like, what like qualifies as like a big turkey? And I was like, I wasn't trying to like bring up like a trophy debate here by any means, but I was like, what are you like, man, I just like seen a turkey out in the field and that was a giant turkey. Well, what is a giant turkey? And, they kind of broke it down a little bit. So, kind of like spur length and obviously beard length, but then like body size. And I'm like, dude, I've never once drove in a field and it's been like, dude, that's a really big tom. It's like, oh, look at those toms, or oh, look at those jakes. Like, so I think there's some intricate details in like fishing or turkey hunting or some things I don't participate as much in that the guys who are serious about it, they like it for the same reasons why I kind of geek out on whitetails. And it's been kind of fun to like slowly learn some of those things and like understand techniques and all that stuff. But I'm a long ways out from being as proficient with those things as I feel like I'm proficient, chasing whitetails in the fall.
Well, it's funny that you say that about turkeys because I've said it. I've like mimicked those same things like on some of the other just turkey hunting podcasts or whatever. But I feel like, and this is probably like, there's probably guys that are going to be like all up in arms about it. But I feel like here in Michigan, and I think I said it on the last podcast I did with the Moore hunting guy. Like, if you have private land in Michigan that has turkeys on it, I don't think you can get excited, like super excited about turkey hunting. I think it's like shooting deer off a bait pile. Like, I mean, and there's guys that get excited about that too, but I just think that, like, just talking to you and like the turkeys that you killed and hearing you call.
It was rough. I was parched, man. Come on.
But like, you're like, I just called him in and it was like, 30 yards, shot him with 12 gauge. And then I called him in for my niece. And it's like, if those turkeys are there and they haven't been messed with, there's enough turkeys in Michigan where if you see them all the time, and it's weird because you'd think like if you see deer all the time, like if because you look and you're like, oh, there's the twos, there's the whatever, like, oh, look at those threes, like, oh, he's got split brow tines, like, you're looking at the like intricacies of them. But I feel like turkey's like the opposite. There's just so many of them and there's nothing, they don't have anything on their head. There's just, and I showed you a video of those birds today and you're like, oh my God, look at those holy longbeards. And it was just like a bunch of longbeards. Like, I've never shot one with big spurs. Like if I that to me would be like, if I shot a bird with like 1.5 inch spurs or something, or like the big hooks, like all of mine have just been like the little like pyramid nubs. Doesn't matter how long their beard is, how much they weighed, like they just got shit for spurs. And so for me, but again, I always talk about that with like why turkey hunting is so fun and why, you can do it like with any weapon or whatever, because I feel like, and again, I've said this multiple times, but like at any point in the deer woods, and it's like for the traditional guy, I think that's how I always said it. But like, if you're going to try and shoot something with a trad bow, you're not going to mess up on like the turkey of a lifetime. You might, but there are very few people who have like a turkey of a lifetime. It's just another turkey. Yes. Whereas like you could be out there, especially you, like in the properties that you hunt and the deer, the situations that you put yourself in, you could have a 200 stroll by at, 23 yards and you got to make a decision, with the trad bow, or you wing one and you shoot him in the, the elbow or something. And you're like, oh Jesus. Like, I wouldn't even. So like, that's the difference, I think, like with turkeys. But I think that, from a guy like yourself who has like all these turkeys, or has all this private land that has turkeys on it that are typically not messed with. And you talk about that like later in the season, that's when you hunt. And so all these turkeys that maybe have been pressured or like whatever, now they've lived a month on this private land where they're not being messed with. And,
I go in there with subpar Colin and they just come running to me.
Yeah. But I think that's the way, like, for turkey. So what is your approach for turkey going to be? We talked about it a little bit earlier today, but like for turkey this year.
Yeah. So, little man wants to shoot a turkey. He's kind of I'm not a turkey guy. I've shot, maybe I got like I don't know, you hear about guys, their first buck was giant. I think I might have had that happen with a turkey. I shot a Jake when I was like teenager, couldn't drive yet. My uncle took me out, or a really good family friend took me out, and I dusted a Jake. Yeah, I think it was actually a family friend. I might have tried turkey hunt one year and didn't make it happen, and then the second year I shot one. So I was probably like 13 or 14. So I was a Jake. It was pretty cool. But then like after that, I was like, yeah, I don't need a turkey hunt anymore. Like it wasn't like a big thing. I think I turned like 19 or 20 and was like, man, there's a lot of turkeys over there on that permission piece I got. And I was like, I think I'm gonna play hooky tomorrow morning and kill a turkey. And it seems like the tags maybe were a little different. I can't remember. I feel like for some reason I couldn't hunt until like May 5th or something, or first week of May, something like that. And the night before, cluck, cluck, cluck with a box call by the dirt road, and just like turkeys, shot gobble. And I was like, oh man, cool. So the next morning I went out there. I had this I still got this like foam hen decoy, right? I plopped it in this field, sat my butt down by an oak tree, and waited till first light, and I could hear him gobbling on the roost. And I just box called a couple of times, and like 4 toms came running in. And I dusted the biggest one and ended up being like a triple bearded turkey, right? And I was like, that was like cool. I hunted for like 15 minutes, big deal. And I shot that bird. I got him full mounted here behind me because it was my first turkey. And I was pretty excited, right? But then after that, zero desire to seriously turkey hunt after that, until Henry got to be like probably 4 or 5 years old. And I was like, hey, we got mom's in school. She's doing her master's program. Like, well, let's get out of the house. What can we do? I was like, we can turkey hunt in the afternoons. So I'd pick them up and get them from work, and we'd get Little Caesars pizza and go sit out on some private pieces, maybe in a deer blind, or maybe just sit in the truck and, see. And it's like, oh, there's turkeys way over there. Maybe kind of half call at them, but like didn't care. A lot of those times I actually did bring my trad bow with him, because I was like, if I'm going to shoot one out of this big blind, I might as well do it with a bow, make it kind of challenging, right? And then only did that maybe 2 years, and then started the podcast, and like some of my buddies were like, hey, they never shot turkeys, and like, let's get into turkey hunting. I'm like, sure, dude, I'll try. Bought a tag and was like, actually it was Ashley's cousin that really wanted to shoot a turkey. That's kind of what kind of got me like, oh, I'll do it. And I called her one in first morning, a big Tom, right? A Tom came in, and it was on the wrong side of the blind, and she couldn't quite get over there. And I was like, well, that was pretty easy. Same kind of thing, like knew the turkeys were there and came running through the timber. And I was like, oh, don't worry, there's more. We can hear them gobbling. And like this parade of Jakes come in, right? And she just smokes one. I was like, dude, that's sweet. And I was like, that was the first year I ever attempted to use a mouth call. And I was like, oh, this worked, cool. And then, may fast forward a week or two, got done with soccer game, and father was like, there's a whole pile of turkeys behind the house, like you should go over there and kill some. So talked to a buddy that that owns property behind there. Hey, do you mind if I go shoot a turkey? Yeah, go for it, I don't care. And went back there, parked the truck. I got home, got all my stuff, parked the truck, could hear him gobbling from the truck, and just did like a normal stalk, like, put 2 and 2 together. Hey, they're over here, they got to get here, got between them, sat my butt on the ground, no decoys, did a little mouth call for a little bit, and within 15 minutes shot a turkey. So like for me, I was like laughing. I'm like, a 40-yard or 35-yard shot with a shotgun that's got like just a normal extra full choke, 12 gauge, like some shells I've had since I was probably 14 years old, and dusted this turkey. And I was like, cool. Like that was, so like for me, like, I guess I have so inexperienced that like I don't really understand that. Like, is that normal? Is that difficult? Don't know. There's a lot of turkeys around. I mean, shoot, in the fall, I'll see 50 to 75 turkeys walking around. So it's just kind of like I'm trying to learn that a little bit. And, but then like Sunday morning took Henry out, and there wasn't a turkey in the woods, but like I've never turkey hunted in April before. So like I'm just trying to find my place in the turkey woods.
I think they call that must be nice.
Yeah, I appreciate everything I have. I do. I am not a guy that does not appreciate how good I got it.
so like in that like scenario, like turn that a little bit on its head, right? So would you like that exact same scenario, and that was deer? And so you went out, first time you ever went deer hunting, you shot a 4-point, then you shot a 150, then you shot, another one, you went out with your cousin, couldn't get a shot at a big one. She dusts a 6-point, and then your dad calls you and says, "Hey, there's a whole pile of deer out in the food plot. Like, you should go shoot them." And
with
then
a
you
gun,
go in there
with a rifle or something.
Yeah,
like
and you,
easy. Yes.
And you go in there and do it. Like, do you think that you would still have the same passion for deer hunting if it was, if that's the way that your season
I think
played out?
But like, I've had great private access for deer too, right? So like, I always hunted where there was lots of deer.
No, but I'm talking about that
situation.
exact timeline. I'm not talking. I'm saying like if that's the way, because I think that's like the I think what people like about turkey hunting, and kind of what I was saying about like I feel like if you have private land that has birds on it, like the opportunity is going to be there. They can't smell
higher rate of success if they're there.
Yeah, you're not worried about thermals. You're not, and especially if you want to talk, just again put it back into deer hunting, right? Like, so you roosted these birds, you found their bedding, you set up a decoy just outside of their bed, and you're hoping that they land on you, basically.
Yeah,
and that no one else has been in there hunting them, like. So do you think that if that was the scenario for deer, that you'd still be so ate up about it, or you'd just be like, meh?
I don't know, because like deer hunting was something that was so ingrained in me at a young age. Like my family was deer hunters, so like I could not freaking wait to go deer hunting. Like I was just so like I couldn't sleep. Like I was so excited. Turkey never hit that way for me. But if I went out and dusted a really big buck right away and then found success, like, oh, hey, like I'll just go out here willy-nilly and shoot big ones, would I have the same desire I have now and like get so like into it if it was that easy? Probably not. Like I probably would just enjoy just hunting. I wouldn't be like trying to, do the things I'm doing now for sure if it came so easy. It's like once it finally happened, it was like, oh my gosh, I finally shot a 3.5-year-old buck in Michigan. Holy cow, that was a lot. Like, that was tough. That was really difficult. And I friggin' loved it. Like, I loved the challenge. So yeah, maybe if I was like, oh my gosh, I got to shoot a turkey, and it's like I'm just struggling for years and finally do it, and then maybe it would hit a little different. Maybe like, oh, I want to come back for more. Because I do think there's something about that secondhand fun that really makes imprints on you, and something I go for, I strive for, in all things, but and maybe that's why turkey hunting hits a little different, because we just have a lot of turkeys around, like, so it's not like the mythical deer or the mythical. It's like, yeah, like, I could probably hop in the truck, right before dark and do a little loop around the block, and I guarantee you I could find probably 10 strutters, right? Like, they're just out there just doing their thing. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. But like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I got to knock on that door to go shoot that turkey. Like, that doesn't even like cross my mind. It's like, well, I'll just, hopefully one comes on a priest I already got, kind of a thing. And it's a weird thing, because I wonder if guys who, like, you talk to guys that, steelhead fish, November 15th, they're out steelhead fishing instead of chasing a deer. They say the same kind of thing. Like, dude, like, who cares about deer? I want to catch that, that steelhead or whatever the fishes they're chasing, and just look for that moment. And it's just whatever, I guess, floats your boat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose. I just think, like, have you ever like had to work a bird, or they've just always just come running in?
I would say the jakes that that I shot for the cousin I had, like, that took a little bit. Like, it was like, okay, I could hear them, and they were going a different way, and like, because the other bird was gobbling, they kind of like, oh, we're gonna let him do it. We don't want to fight a tom. And once he boogered out, it was like, well, he's gone now. You guys can come. So I kind of like played with them a little bit, and they came in. But with Henry, I would we would see turkeys off in a distance, and like they're on their way to a roost or something. And we like tried sneaking up on them a couple times, and it'd be like, I'd be calling at them and they'd be, hammering back, but I wasn't in the right position. And they were like, a few hundred yards away. So I've had a couple times. One time with him, I did call a tom within like 45 yards or 40 yards, but I had my recurve. So that was a little too far. But like, I wasn't even upset that he didn't come. Like, So I think what I need to do is I should like tag along with someone who's like really tore up about it. So when they're like, oh my gosh, like I can hear this turkey doing X, Y, and Z, I gotta go make a play on them, and then that works. It's like, oh, that's cool. There's so much to it. For me, it's just like I'm so new to it. I have no idea, like just no clue. Like you've heard me call. I'm like, dude, here's 3 calls, like, and you're like, explain how to use a box call. I've never had anyone explain to me how to use a box call that way.
Yeah, and that for me is like I don't use a box call. It's so hard for me to even kind of think about like being a good caller because Frank is so good, and then the guys that he learned from, and like the one day when I was at the club waiting for you, I was sitting with the guy that made all of Frank's calls, and we were talking about different materials and how to use them and working birds and all this stuff. And I know like mouth calling, like I'm not as good as Frank, but I'm not terrible. And I know with a slate, like I can work a slate, and I'm very, very confident with that. But a box call, like those sounds I was telling you, like you don't want it to sound like this. Like I feel like when I'm more often than not, I get too much of that tapping or that like hollow sound. And he's just like a maestro with it, because that's what, those Rod Benson, like the Black Barker and some of those other ones, I mean, they're just amazing. And you put it in, Rod's hands or Scott's hands or Frank's hands, and it's just like, oh my God, and so, and then, sometimes I'll hear other people that I'm, hunting with, like, because we usually will split up, the caller will be behind, whatever. And then sometimes when nothing's going on, both people will start calling, and I'll like hear the box call go off, and I'll be like, what the hell is that? And I'll be like, oh yeah, I started calling. And so I just don't want to be that guy. So I'm
that guy.
Yeah.
But no, I think with turkey hunting though, I got a tag this year. It's a long season. I'm just gonna be like what I've done in years past. Like I'm kind of gonna wait for when the birds are there and then make a play on them. But I do like it. Like I think after last year, having my cousin shoot one and then trying to get Henry one this year, it's like, okay, like I got some spots that have turkeys that we could probably go. Just waiting for the weather to be a little nicer because he's going to be sitting in the elements. I guess we could drag a pop-up blind out there, but I don't know. I feel like it'd be kind of fun just to sit in the woods with him and just be like, hey, we're sitting here. You gotta be stealthy. Because he's 9 years old now, so it's kind of like he sat for 2 hours the other morning. No electronics, didn't have any toys. Just we sat there and talked. And it's like he's kind of getting to that point where it's like, okay, dude, now we gotta like kind of like hunt these things. Like, so I'm kind of like there's aspects of turkey hunting that I'm like thinking about and like how it can be fun. And like today you're talking about, why don't you use your brawler to shoot a turkey? And I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that until, Latrout said he shot one. And I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool, right? Like if we can get some that close and kind of add a little thing to it. Because it's like what you were saying earlier, like if you miss a turkey with your trad bow, it's like the turkey population isn't going to, be destroyed, or it's not like, oh my gosh, I missed a world record turkey or anything like that. So I think there's little things like that. And man, what a great time of the year to be outside. Like I do like that. I like, the mornings, seeing everything wake up, good sunrises. It's a little cooler and it warms up. I mean, it's just a great time to be outside. So I think the more time I put into it and the more I try to like learn techniques or try to understand, because I mean, I'm not going to just go out every time and just have a turkey come running and shoot it. Like maybe that's realistic, but to me, I don't think that is. But I just want to kind of be a little more well-versed in it. And I would like to not be that guy that you're like, you call turkeys in like that? Like, dude.
well, I mean, you can call turkeys with a shitty call. I mean, and that's one of the things, like I said, when I was talking with Rod, he's like, I've heard turkeys come into terrible calls. Like it just, it's just whatever that turkey, whatever gets it fired up. But one of the things that you were saying, like, so this year, my wife, she's even said like, hey, when's turkey season? Like, I want to go. But she doesn't, maybe she'll go with me, but she wants to go with her dad, and she likes it because it's a good time of year. Like it's funny because she was talking about, you remember that one time that we were turkey hunting and I fell asleep and then I woke up and I was covered in snow. But it is a good time of year. It can be a little bit buggy, but what she likes to do is just ride around and go get breakfast pizza and donut and coffee with her dad, And I think that's, that's what I do with Stella with, like when we go glassing for deer, she wants to stop at the gas station, get a slushie, get some popcorn. She's got her own binoculars, and that's what it is. I don't think she cares about the deer. I think it's that experience. But what I was going to tell you, and I told you about it a little bit today, is like I got that so I found it through like Sportsman's Guide, but they have them on Amazon. It's that guide gear. It's a dual hub blind. So I was looking at those Newcomb blinds, and I've seen them there at the Harrisburg show, like right by where Latitude was the last couple of years. And I seen Jake Downs shoot a bunch of turkeys already this year out of them with a trad bow. So I was like, oh yeah, I want to look at that. And they were like $150 for these two like triangle shaped pieces, and I think they work good. I was just talking to somebody about this, because you can like lean out and you don't have to shoot over it. I think that may be like one of the benefits of it for like shooting a bow. But that guide gear one is just two hubs of one of those pop-up blinds that you're talking about. And so like, I don't have a redneck blind to go sit in. We're building a shed and you're like, oh, I got a blind just like this. I don't have that to go sit in. So, for me and Stella, I got to bring this big giant thing, or we're just sitting on the ground. And then you got, for her, like I got the tripod, I got, chairs, I got all the things. So it packs up really small. I actually just put it on the bottom of my pack, and it just sticks out it's maybe as long as like a climbing stick.
So now you have that, and then you have to carry like decoys and tripod and cushions and stuff. Like, is that something you just sit on your butt, and can shoot out of, or is that like how high off the ground is it?
So I was shooting over it, like off my knees.
Okay. So
it's set up where if you were sitting on a cushion or like one of those little chairs, but I couldn't shoot a trad bow. I don't think I could shoot my bow off of one of those little chairs, not over it. It would be really tough.
So were you standing up to shoot, or were you on your knees when you shot?
I was on my knees.
Okay. I'm just trying to think for like little man, like, because he's
if he was sitting in a chair, you could put the gun up above it, but it does have two little windows in it, so you could be right behind it.
Nice.
And shoot through it.
But there's so much I carry for turkey hunting, man. Like 2 decoys, that stuff. It's just like, I just leave the decoy. Like, my decoys have been in my deer blind since last year. Because like when I go turkey hunting, I don't even bring a decoy. I'm just like, I'm gonna try to run and gun, I guess, or try to cut them off or something is what I've done. Because like, God, how do you carry all that stuff? Like, that's a legit question. Like, is it worth investing in like a nice vest just to help carry all your stuff, or is it like a backpack? I mean, what's kind of like a good way to do that?
So funny story. So Frank has a vest. I have a vest, and I like a backpack more, because what I've had in the past is like, in that thing for the blind, like I have 2 chairs in there. So I'll carry that. Then I got the gun. Then I got the tripod. And then I got the decoy. So there's either like the decoy bags, or I'll have the decoy strapped to a backpack. So I usually have a backpack too on top of that. But I do have a vest, and like if you've ever seen it's like the Cabela's, like I don't know if it's like the T-bone one or something. I don't know. It's like super turkey shredder. But anyways, it's got a pad that you sit on. It's like meant to like lean up against a tree, but you can click it together. It's got buckles on it, and you can tighten it up. And this is kind of like what I was asking you about, like, had you ever like worked a turkey? Because like it can be so exciting. So my wife was in that vest because it had the cushion. So she's little, so we cinched it down like as tight as possible. And we were sitting like we were facing west, she and I sitting next to each other with the decoys in front of us. And then then Frank was facing east on the other side of the tree. And we had these turkeys going, gobbling all over. Well, then all of a sudden the gobbling stops and the call, like, so Frank's calling, all of a sudden the gobbling stops. And all we just hear is like, And my wife was like, what is that? And I'm like, it's the turkey. I'm like, just be quiet. Just stop. So she's like, what? What's it? What's making that noise? And I'm like, stop. No. And she's left-handed and the turkey's on her right. And so she's trying to like get up, but she's so tight in this stupid vest that she can't turn. So this turkey is basically strutting across right back in front of her dad's feet, like back and forth. And he can't call anymore because it'll see him. I mean, it's right there. And so it starts to like make it and I'm like unclipping. I'm like moving slow. I'm like trying to unclip her. We're getting her out of the vest so that she can turn. And she's like, so we get her out of the vest and she's like, I think I can just shoot right over my dad's head. And I'm like, don't do that. She's like, no, I think that's what we should do. And I'm like, I don't think so. And he starts to come. There's this big branch, and so she can't shoot through this big branch. It's probably like a 3-inch diameter branch on this like white pine tree, like low to the ground. And the bird turns and goes like walking the other way, and he got so that he couldn't see, and Frank just barely touched that call and it gobbled, and she jumped about 3 feet up. I mean, because that bird hammered and it was like on top of us. And then whatever, the bird takes off, and at the end of the whole thing, Frank says, he says, I was just waiting for the barrel of the gun to come out over my shoulder. And she's like, I told him that's what I want to do. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And he's like, oh, it would have been fine. I was waiting for it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. But I mean, so that's like that like exciting portion of it. Cause like, that's what I think about. Like when you strike up a bird that you're not like that you haven't seen yet, or that you hear him gobble and he's far away. And then, then he's closer, and then you can see him, and then I mean, there's a big like cat and mouse that's pretty exciting. But as far as like the vests, if you carry like 1 million calls like Frank does, and all that other stuff, and if you are like truly like running and gunning and just leaning up against trees and you're shotgun hunting, like there's probably nothing better. But like for hunting with a kid and all that stuff, like I don't know, I'm excited about doing it with this little blind because it's less stuff for me to carry, and I think that we can hide behind it. She's going to be using a gun, so I'm a lot more confident than and we've run and gunned with bows with no blind and all that stuff, and that's really hard. So
isn't there a reel out there about you climbing across or crawling across the field?
That was a long time ago. That was like right in, I think like right in the middle of COVID or whatever. And that was super fun. That was a fun hunt, but that was like same deal. Like, I mean, we worked that bird. I mean, we called that bird out into the field, and he strutted across like 200 yards and just made this big circle out in front of us. And we watched this bird for like 2.5 hours. And he went over that rise when he was still gobbling. And they're like, well, you think you can get over there and get to him, And so I went out there, and then I crawled, and then they were still in the back behind me trying to pull the bird over. And I ended up that the hen, like it was not on all the footage there, but like the hen was like literally less than 20 yards from me, and the tom was like at 40. And I'm trying to range, and I'm laying in the grass, and I can't get past the grass. And I mean, imagine like being like less than 20 yards away from turkeys that are like actively feeding, and you're like laying on your stomach trying to range these birds, like try to get a good range, and you're trying to pop up and you're trying to be with the grass. And then I ended up having to roll over, and I drew my bow up from my back, like on my back.
Oh.
So, because they would have seen me. I couldn't like just pop up real quick. So once I got drawn, I just popped up to my knees and, got aimed. And he was like, the old Texas heart shot. He was fanned away from me. And he was 40 when I ranged him, and he had like strutted his way over to like 42, 44 or something. I put it right between the wickets. I mean, it looked perfect, and then it dropped right between his legs.
Oh man.
And, but same deal, like with a shotgun, like that bird's dead. Like,
Toast.
I mean,
yeah.
And for me, like that's what I say, like how that's like super exciting. Like if it was a shotgun, like kind of like what you've experienced, like it could be over in an instant.
Yeah, like I just haven't had enough seat time, right? Like I haven't like hunted turkeys enough to like give a fair assessment. I've had good success, but I don't think it's just enough to warrant that. And I mean, like I said, that's what I'm intrigued with. Like keep doing this. Maybe this year I won't get one and I'll be able to hunt a lot, like maybe getting the chips a little more often, and maybe it'll kind of like you said, like suffer through it a little bit, and like kind of like then the reward will be a little sweeter, after that. I don't know if I'm Tradbo level.
Well, but I think you're on the right path. But I think it also comes down to like, what do you want to do with it? Like, because like my adventure or whatever, like side says, well, you should be backing up Henry with your brawler, so if he misses, but then at the same time, like, that's the thing, like deer hunting with Stella is like, I don't want her to have like a bad experience. Like,
yes.
So I don't want, you should be back behind him with a 10 gauge, like, so that if his bird gets back up, it's not going anywhere,
Yes.
But it would be super cool to be able to double up with him too.
Yeah, a lot of guys did that this year. A lot of my buddies shot doubles, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, when I take Henry out, I was like, one gun. Like, didn't even think about taking a second one, just because I don't like carrying a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and, just for the guys that are listening, like, and you and I had this conversation long ago when we were talking about it, but so both of our kids are young enough that they can do the Menard youth hunt. So they can hunt any season, any bird, anywhere, as long as, and my daughter, she goes, so like anybody's property? And I was like, no, we still have to have permission. So,
oh, that's great.
It's not like that. I quit talking.
She's
to
your daughter for sure.
But I did call the DNR because I was like, I want to make sure, kind of like the fishing thing, that I can carry the gun, because, and so I talked to somebody who did not seem to know what they were talking about. They didn't seem to understand the question, but they did say that I could carry the gun. So I'm putting it out there and saying like, hey, but honestly, I think we're going to be late enough into the season that we should be fine.
Yeah.
I'll have a license.
I'm looking forward to it. Soccer, like I said, soccer started, so I might have to get some evening hunts in with Henry, Saturday morning games. We have weird game schedules, so we might only have really like one opportunity to do a morning hunt a week. So just going to try to make my best play. I told Henry, I was like, hey, before we do our morning hunt, we're going to try to like glass or roost some birds for them, to kind of like have them experience that. So we're a little, the guide, does a little better job at that part. So looking forward to that. But I mean, I'm like thinking about it too. Like I got spring food plots coming up. I got all this other stuff going on. So it's like, how do you like, I guess for you, you seem to do quite a bit of stuff. Like what's a good way, like, cause like, we both get young kids and like spend a lot of time with them and try to like, do things with them. How do you kind of like allocate your time? I guess like right now you're like, okay, fully focused on getting her bird. If I get time to hunt, cool. And then like, as you go throughout the year, like, you're kind of a public land guy, but you've talked about wanting to do more, habitat work maybe up north? Like, do you have like some time that you're like, hey, we're making a family trip to the UP property, we're gonna do some spring food plots, or we're gonna cut some trees, and like, is she kind of involved with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like, forever, like, because I have a daughter, I was like, I don't know how to do this, because I didn't like, my thought process was like, I don't want to force these things upon her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make I don't put like politically correct like way to, but I'm like, I don't want to just like make her a tomboy or like make her the son I wish I had, That's not the case by any stretch of the imagination, but that was like my fear, was like, because this is like who I am, right? But what I realized is that like, she, just like all kids, like just want to be involved. And so given the opportunity for like ever, we would go scout, we would go shed hunt, we would go look for beds, and I'd show her like, look, here's deer hair, here's where they're living, here's what a rub is, here's what a scrape is, here's what's going on. I got pictures of her like in diapers, like glassing deer, like going and looking for turkeys, looking at turkey tracks, looking at the dust bowls, looking at, strut marks, looking at all the stuff. And like, when she doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But like the stuff like in the UP, like, I learned this from Billy, and I my brothers took it on too. But like, when the kids go to the UP, they can swear, so they want to go to the UP every chance that they can get. So they want to go up there. But like, the last time, like, we didn't go last year, but the year prior, they were up there. They were driving the four-wheelers. They were out there picking rocks, so we run the disc, and then they went and picked all the rocks out of the field. And then we brought the clay pigeon thrower, and they were, haphazardly shooting at clay pigeons. And, we're learning about gun safety, and we're shooting pistols and all this stuff. But there's no, this past year I did bring the Starling Cup there for deer camp, but there was 8 kids. So it was like, we're going to have something for him to do. But in the summertime, they can go out and go exploring. They can, swim in the pond. But there's no internet, so they have to do something. And so what are we doing? Okay, well, we're going to go spray. We're going to go cut these things down. And, I think it kind of allows for, maybe they or she or whatever, they like get to have like a childhood like we had, or like I had. Like, I mean, my parents had 5 acres. We had a pond in the backyard. You were talking about catching bass. Like, we would literally, between my garage, the back garage, and the pond, you'd grab a fishing pole, you'd flip over every log and stick and everything. You'd grab a handful of worms, toads. Toads were great. And you could just catch bass. Like, they all had holes in their faces because we caught them 500 times. So it was not, and you were, we were doing it all. We were sight fishing them on beds. But like, we were basically chumming them. You'd find 5 toads. You'd throw 3 toads in the middle of the thing. These bass would come up and just eat them, and you'd throw one out there with a hook and
get them.
I mean, it was fish in a barrel. So that, I mean, I grew up like all summer barefoot catching frogs. Like, my mom wrote a kid's book, and one of the like pictures in the kid's book, like what part of it was like me and my best friend. We went out back. We had a wagon, like for the radio flyer wagon. Yeah. We caught like 30 frogs, right? And we had a dip net, and we had to come in for lunch. So we brought the wagon in the house, and we just put the dip net over the frogs, but it didn't cover the whole wagon. So like, we went down after lunch, and there was like 8 frogs in there, and there's frogs everywhere in the basement. So I think that gives that's what it gives these kids the opportunity to
Yes.
go, is like find snakes. And funnily enough, you said that she's definitely my daughter, right? There was a kid up there who's my cousin's friend. He's like one of the best guys ever. But these girls found out that he was afraid of snakes, and they tried the whole 3 days they were up there to find a snake to chase Joey around with. Yeah.
Dude, I love it. Like it's like finally the kids, our kids are similar in age, to that point where we can like reminisce on like how we were. And it's like you're seeing the same thing. It's so much fun, man. So much. Like, dude, I remember when I was, Henry's age, riding my bike. Back then times were a little different, but like I'd bring pop cans to the party store, get a pop and get a thing of worms and go ride my bike back to the lake and fish until I could hear my mom whistle from the house, right? And I would just be gone. To me, it felt like I was gone for days. It might have only been 2 hours, but doing those things, like seeing my kiddo kind of like embrace it. And it's like, oh yeah, like here's like, I had to put a little more effort into like being like, hey, I might go do, like, he's always take long when I do food plots or do those kind of things. But now it's like, okay, what can I want him to be able to like kind of experience how he wants to be. Like, does this like, it's changing from, hey, you're tagging along with a dad to like, now he wants to go. Like, he's like, oh, like he's mad if I don't, like I shed hunt for like 30 minutes one night after work or somewhere. And he was like literally mad that I didn't take him. Like, kind of a thing. I was like, well, dude, I was, doesn't matter. Like, didn't matter. I was like, okay, he's big, got him a compound bow for his birthday this spring. And he's shot that a handful of times. Just see him like, the guy at the archery place where he bought the bow, I said, hey, to pretend like I'm not here, I want you to tell him all the pointers that you need to. You've set up way more bows for kids than me. Break it down. And like Henry just like does those few things he told him. Like, I can see him process, and I'm like, he's maturing, he's like learning this thing and trying to get to it. And man, it feels good as a dad. It's like, oh boy, it's gonna be wild here in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So like, and that's what's fun is like Stella's been up to the property enough, and she's hunted there 3 years now. And so then when we go up there, I'm like, what do you think we should do? Like, what do you think, what will help? What do you think? And she's like, well, and whether she's right or wrong, she's getting input. She's giving her opinion and valuing it. What's funny though is like I give you a lot of crap for all the private land stuff and all the permission stuff, but you really don't strike me as like, you say like all the food plot stuff and whatnot, but you don't really strike me as like a food plot guy. Like when we went over to your property and I was like looking at those like vitalized radishes, and I was like, what the hell? And I even talked to them about that, and they're like, at our property there's just too much deer browse, like they're just being mowed down. But there's some guys who are just like, always posting pictures of their food plots, and they're just like, that's all they talk about. And nothing against, obviously this isn't directed at like Jared but there are just some guys that just come off as like food plot guys, not like habitat guys, not like deer guys. Like, they're more excited about like what their food plot looks like than the deer that they kill, I think. And that doesn't strike me as you. So when you talk about like getting into like food plots and stuff, like how much food plot do you do, how many, and like how do you utilize them, and what, like, I guess the schedule too.
Yeah, so for like me and food plots, so like my grandpa was a dairy farmer for years. Like, he's in his early 80s, and he has not, I don't think it's been maybe a handful of years since he had cows. So like growing up, he was always farming. My dad, did a lot of farming growing up too. And now he's got a hobby farm. My in-laws, farmers as well. So like I've been surrounded by like a lot of people who like farming, like, right, throwing hay bales and alfalfa and corn and all this stuff. But like for some reason for me, I never was like super intrigued with crops. Like, I wasn't. And then, food plots kind of like came on really hard probably when I was like in my 20s, I want to say, like that 2010-ish, somewhere in there, 2007 maybe, is like the food plot craze kind of hit. Like farming for deer kind of was a thing. And I tried a lot of different things, right? Like my dad's got a lot of working knowledge, so I always defaulted to him. My dad doesn't own like a lot of property himself, so like a lot of these places I hunt, I can't do food plots. Well, fast forward a few years, it's like, okay, started getting some permission pieces where I could use a food plot and try new things. And we kind of struggled, right? Like we were kind of like, hey, why is this stuff not working? And it usually came down to like just didn't either have the resources, didn't have the time, didn't time it right, blah blah. So I started really paying attention to some other things, and like vitalized seed, I just like heard that and I was like, okay, I like this, I want to try it. And that's kind of like the first food plot seed where it's the 1-2 punch, right? Is make it simple. Spring plot is this, fall plot is that, and they have like their recommendations on how to do it. And I kind of just followed the recommendations and did the call packer thing, and timed some stuff out really well. And I've had really good luck with it the last couple of years. But for me, no, I'm not like this dude that's like have these like super lush, food plots, and I'm like killing deer on them. I have gotten better at using them to kill deer, but for me, it was like I just want food for deer. I want like to just kind of give back to the property a little bit, and for some reason, I was like, oh, food plots like a really like easy point of entry to like give back a little bit. Like there's gonna be food here 24/7 for the deer or turkeys or all that stuff, and it's kind of like morphed into now. Like this year, I'm actually thinking of like food plot architecture, like how I should where I should place it, how it should be designed to kind of help. But I use food plots as a way to have there be food where there is no food when the ag fields come off, like when they harvest the crops. So like last year I had some like great hunts on like the smallest little food plot because I just planted it in an inside corner where the beans were. And when the beans got harvested, the stuff grew. And dude, I shot probably like 3 or 4 does in proximity of that micro plot. And like amount of plots I have, let's see, I had like last year down in this part of the state, I had probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish. I think I had 5 plots. All the biggest one was like an acre. The majority of them were like quarter acre and smaller. And then northern Michigan have the ability to do a little bit bigger plots, but like last year that didn't really work that well. But this year we're going to do a little bit more. So it's just a matter of timing. Like Memorial Day weekend kind of is like me and my dad are like, hey, we got to allocate some time to put these things in for spring plots, and then pray for rain kind of a thing. And then the fall is like a pretty wide variety. Like I feel like I got a pretty good window. Like I planned like the plot you're talking about that you saw. I didn't plant that until September because we had no rain. And then I planted it when I did, timed the rain right, and dude, like those radishes and all that stuff was perfect, and the deer were loving it. And that wasn't really that big. I want to say that was probably like a half acre maybe, or 3/8 of an acre, that little spot. And yeah, there was some really, my buddies had some really good hunts right there. So I just want to be as relatable as possible, like a normal guy that maybe can only do a quarter acre, or is someone that's like, hey, I got this ability to do it. Habitat work has never really been a thing I can do on the properties, so I'm kind of like limited to food plots, and that's what I've done for a handful of years.
Yeah, I'm just trying to process that. You're talking about like one of the things you said there was using them to kill deer and not killing deer off of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would like to do for our property in the UP. And the thing is that it's a giant cedar swamp with a couple of fields. So I know where we should have a food plot, but getting sunlight in there, getting, equipment back in there, and all this throw and grow stuff. And like, I would love to get in there and open it up a little bit with some chainsaw work or whatever. But it's just, again, like I love having the conversations with Jared because he did it on small properties, and moved up to bigger properties. And when I showed him our property, we just went around the edges. We didn't dive into the middle of where I think things could be really good with a little, just, a little bit of tweaking. So it's interesting to look at it from that approach, because I don't think that many guys, I guess I don't, I think that again, it goes back to the must be nice crowd of, you just shoot them over. TV stuff.
Yeah, the redneck blind on a, switchgrass encompassed food plot. Which, don't get me wrong, I want to do that. Like, I want to have a property where it's like, hey, we got 4 spots on these beautiful, lush food plots that you can plug people in and, do deer management essentially out of them, but just not quite there yet.
So you have you have a couple years of experience with the Vitalize, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do or like implement this year, I think, is try to, you talk about the switchgrass and compass, like whatever. I really think, just because of the way that spring stuff grows up so high, the sorghum or whatever's in it, is just not tilling some of that under and like creating a soft edge with that and just leaving it and seeing how that does. And even doing like some of those, like, depending on how tall you can get it or whatever, like what it looks like, even leaving some like rows of it like in the middle, especially like there's one spot on our property where there's like the inside corner is actually, and we don't even hunt it. And it's something that I'm going to focus on this year a little bit more. But there's an inside corner that's down this rise where there's a lot of buck sign down in there, but there's never any food or anything there. So it's just an inside corner, but it's not an inside corner that's being utilized for anything. Mm-hmm. But I think at the top of that rise, if we were to leave that tall, and it would create even like more of a barrier, so the deer would have to come up to check. Mm-hmm. Just stuff like that, and I just want to see, because that spring stuff, even if you do a mediocre job like I feel like we do, it gets like super high if the deer don't eat it all.
I did that exact same thing. Like, I had a 1 acre brand new plot we did last year. We sprayed it all, it killed everything. Dad lightly dissed it. Did a whole acre worth of nitro boost, and we had water in the spring, so it blew up. And then I went in, broadcasted carbon load. I thought we were getting rain. I went in, broadcasted some carbon load, and colopacked half of that plot approximately right onto that. And then we got no rain. But fortunately for me, the nitro boost was still there. So like, we had some stuff, and I went and broadcasted a little bit of carbon load again, but didn't quite get the seed to soil contact quite right. So I mean, it grew a little bit, but not as good as I would like. But dude, I had a camera sitting there the whole year, and the amount of deer that skirted the edge, essentially the nitro boost I left was like on a hillside, like it went up higher. My camera was low facing out, and just beyond that was a big cornfield. That's corn every single year. And when the corn's up, the deer use that little piece, that little terrain feature, nonstop. And we can see this because we can see it from my dad's house. So like, this is what's kind of fun, right? Like, you're seeing this stuff not only through a trail camera, but like my dad's eyes, right? Like, he's noticing what deer are doing in the morning. He can see them at night. And once that corn came down, and it comes down quick around here, the nitro boost was still staying. That sorghum and all that stuff was. And I could not tell you how many deer would stage right there in that little pocket and then work their way through and use that cover and sneak up in there. And I was really like, ooh, I like that, because not only is that it's helping me, like, do I need a full acre? No, I'm surrounded by eggs, so there's a lot of food, but just given that plot or that area that was did nothing for us once it got cold or once the corn came down, it's like, hey, now we have another solid option to hunt. And and we're building the soil up. Like, that's another thing. Like, you're not just planting something that you get to, plant every year, burn, and like, it's not doing anything for soil. Like, nitro boost is legitly, doing good things for the soil. So like, that's a proponent for me. Like, if I can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, screen and build soil, sign me up. And I've had great luck with that.
Yeah, and it's just something that I don't know. I was listening to something, and they were talking about, like, hard edges versus soft edges on these fields and plots and stuff like that. And I was thinking, like, I've seen it firsthand, like some of that stuff, like when you do get the rain, and we didn't get very much rain last year, so that's kind of hurt us too. Mm-hmm. But that stuff was like waist high, and you think, oh, that's not that tall, but I mean, deer aren't really that tall.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I think it grew for me like 8 feet. Like, it was so tall. I mean, it was nuts how good, because I mean, we had just enough water in the spring, and it was like great. But I was going to say too, like, how maybe an example of, using the plots to kill deer, or, instead of just killing them in the plot, like the recurve buck last year, right? The recurve debacle, the one I hit, almost in the back of the head on accident. That deer was on a mock scrape that I had in a micro plot on an inside corner, small. Like I went in with a rake and a weed eater and, put this plot in middle of the summer. And I had a nighttime picture of that deer and another one that were in that area, like pretty close, right? Like, so I kind of knew about the deer, but I wasn't like, you can joke with me. It was a 3-year-old buck. So it wasn't like one I'm like, oh, I really want to target him. But I had seen those deer there. Then I kind of hunted there and I was like, man, they're not using this the way I think. So I kind of was able to just like, take a few steps back, do a little like hunt a morning, didn't see what I want to see. I'm like, I'm going to do a little loop through here. And within probably like 200 yards of that plot, I kind of found where I felt like those deer could be using. I did a hang and hunt the following morning and, had that buck at 11 yards. And he was in proximity. Like I was right in the wheelhouse, but like that 200-yard move, like, makes all the difference, but like I don't know if I would have had him on my camera or even the other buck on the camera if I didn't have that little micro food plot right there. Just giving him something a little different to use in a sea of corn kind of a thing. And so like it can be used in a lot of tools, and does kind of hang out by it. Does are a little more patternable, throughout the fall. So it's like, hey, I know there's a doe family group back there. It's getting close to the rut. I got to throw some sits back in there because I know there's does in there. And I've had great hunts. I mean, I shot a buck in the similar circumstances probably in 2020, I believe, with a gun. I knew there was a doe group that was constantly back there, and same kind of a thing. Like, hey, I capitalized, shot a buck with my gun. So there's a lot of different ways to do that, I think. And you can't, and Jared and guys talk about this, you can't just, you can't force the deer to be somewhere they don't necessarily want to be either. So I think I'm getting better at like placing these in like good spots and like knowing that, hey, like the deer already like this area. Why don't I just put this little thing right where they want to be? Opposed to being like, the deer like to be 300 yards over there. I'm going to draw them all the way over here and then, just sit my butt on this chair for, over and over and over again. It's like, no, that's not my MO. I want to like slide in, have a good hunt, maybe only hunt that thing 2 or 3 times the whole year and just have really good high-end hunts and then have fun. Because, I mean, I can sit all day with a gun in my hands, but when I'm bow hunting, like, if I sit on a food plot and don't see anything, oh man, that's so boring. Like I got to be in the thick of stuff. I want to go in there and be like super confident that the buck I want to shoot is going to be walking down this trail or be in this little thicket or work this transition. Like that's fun for me. Doing that kind of, hang and hunt stuff opposed to, all right, I'm just going to twiddle my thumbs on this, beautiful, lush, green food plot and take pictures of the birds. Like, I'm not quite there in my hunting journey quite yet.
Yeah, just going through my head, like, I feel like like going back to like what Jared was, like why I like Jared starting on like the small plots and then like even like seeing like your stuff. You're hunting like some of like the Kansas type stuff, I feel like, because it's like just these little blocks in between all this ag and things like that where I don't know. I just know from like what Kevin says about like hunting big woods, but like ours is just, having 240 acres to be like, okay, now figure it out, make the deer do what you want to do in like this big timber, like of swamp, cedar swamp. There's tons of spots where I would like to do like what you just said, like where I know that this buck's going to be in this thicket, but it's a big kind of like solid piece of land with like, okay, I know where I want to put a food plot. I was thinking about it when you were talking about that to create exactly what you said, except for the soil's just like completely all rock and clay. So what now?
I think you're going to be chainsaw work. Like you're going to have to make TSI be your food plot kind of a thing. Like that's going to be, and I just, that's coming to mind, not because I've done it, but that's what I've heard guys talk about, that you can go through and create that diversity with a chainsaw or hinge cutting or clearing out some stuff and have a new undergrowth. And like, that's like like guys talk about it. Kevin talks about it too. Like, clear cut or a cut over or whatever you want to call it is the food plot in big woods. And I think maybe you guys could have some like really good luck maybe doing that. But if you already know that, it's like, hey, I got to go put this little diversity right over here. Boom, fire up the chainsaws and see what happens. And I mean, you got a good resource with some of these guys that can kind of like, help you out. But that's probably what I would do. I know like when I I've hunted some big wood stuff, granted not the same level of you grew up doing it, but like I found myself out of state hunting some stuff and a little bit last year, and it's a whole different ball game. Like I completely understand the struggle. I completely understand how guys are like, yeah, it must be nice. It is nice. Like I have the ability to put eyes on a lot of stuff at one time, and I can like learn a property because of that. But also you have to be very smart about how you do it. Too, like it's just a different way of doing it. And I don't know any different. Like I've always hunted ag my whole life, from private land perspective. But man, there is something about the big wood that is, I do like a lot. Like just like going into a piece, and it's like, dude, I can walk like a few miles that way and I ain't going to cross an open field. Like it's just woods and swamp or river bottom or something. And that's a lot of fun, to do too. So I'm kind of like jealous that I was talking to someone, maybe Jake or someone. It's like, man, I kind of wish I would have like walked more of that stuff when I was in like my teenage years or my early 20s. I would just be so much farther ahead than I am right now. It's kind of like what I think. But I still find myself walking around every winter looking for sheds and like places that like, past me would be like, there's no chance you'd ever catch me walking around over there. There's no deer over there. All the deer in the ag fields. That's how I grew up.
Yeah. It's interesting, just the differences, because we've talked a lot, and for us it was never about big deer. It was never about it was almost like the like coming to life, or like the speak it into existence of like, must be nice, like this is what we shoot, must be nice, but we're still shooting all the does, all the things. With, I don't know, the agriculture has never been, it was never been like more apparent than like at the Patreon hunt in the first one, like Joe and like a lot of the guys that came up, they found ag on the map and they went right to it. And like 0 point ever until like that point, until like that hunt, where these guys were seeing deer and like we were seeing 1 or 2 deer, and they were like having deer like within range, like right now. Did it ever even like occur to me to look for it on the map? And I don't know if it's because it's like, hunting like property line type stuff where, but I to that point, like I'd always looked for like the biggest tract of land to get away from people, because even if on our property, we just hunt the outsides. We hunt the property lines anyways. Mm-hmm. We don't hunt the middle. And you run out of real estate quick. Like it looks nicer over there. Like, oh, they're on the neighbor's property. Oh, you can see them, and they're over there. And, so I think I just went the complete opposite way and said, well, I just want to get away from people. And there was that, when we first started doing the podcast, all the information was like, you got to get in further, you got to go further, you got to go further. And so, and we had always hunted the spots that we hunted where Frank hunts and where I've killed the bigger bucks here in Michigan, a mile from the truck plus. Mm-hmm. And so it just wasn't, that wasn't like out of the ordinary, but never once. And that's in the middle of those properties. It's away from the ag. We weren't hunting right up against the ag. And now, like the spots that I'm scouting, like I'm looking like, oh, well, here's the rut funnel that goes right through the ag, like to this stuff. And it's just a strange like thing to think about, and then to have that, and then be like, oh, well, on top of all this ag, we're gonna put some food plots on top of it. It's like so different. And I think it's, I don't know. Would you say in doing the podcast and talking to all the people that you have, like going up to the, if you haven't listened to the Deer Hunter podcast, the live one, the Nate that they're talking about that's on the speed dial for the deer tracker, that's Nate. But in talking to guys, do you think that that's like the hunting style that you have, and like, that a lot of permission pieces and like small food plot stuff is more typical of like the people who you interact with, like through the podcast? Or where do you think like your interactions come for the
Yeah, like who I like to like talk to and stuff.
No, just like who listens or who pays attention. Like, you know, because we are obviously, you know, people are like public land guys or have like small private pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I like to think that I'm like pretty split down the middle. Like I feel like I have a lot of guys I talk to. They're like they only hunt public land, and then I also got quite a few guys who are like, man, I just started hunting. And I got permission on this 20 acres, or you know, it can be I like to be like down the middle, like because I'm really intrigued by that. I think I've learned, and I think I know why. I feel like I have learned the most about hunting from guys who hunt a lot of public land. Like there's so many little details that they talk about that I've heard them just like talk about, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what was that? And they talk about it, and I'm like, oh. I never thought about that, but I can apply that on my private pieces, or I can look on a map and look for private land that looks like that or has something like that, and I go and I don't always get permission, but I've got a couple and it's worked. So I kind of like I do like to talk to those guys that grind it out, or have a lot of seat time and have hunted in a little maybe different circumstances, because if they're finding deer consistently, there's something in their mindset or something in their way they attack a fall that works, and I kind of want to glean a little bit from that. But then on the flip side, I get a kick out of some of these people talk about like, hey, I got the family farm, and man, we've done all this work to it, and we went from like never seen anything over a 6-point to now look at this. And it's like, that is really cool, because I understand the amount of effort that went into that too. So I try to be pretty much down the middle. I feel like I got some really good friends that are just like me. We don't have property that we own. We just have permission and public land, and we just get after it. And I mean, dude, anyone who's serious about hunting and wants to keep doing it, like I try to talk about it all,
Yeah.
I'm not just a Bow Hunter, Chronicles over here.
Yeah. I know this is like so far out of the realm. Like, I mean, we talked about fishing, and it wasn't John. We talked about rabbit hunting, all sorts of things. So
habitat work on private land. What?
Yeah. Jeez. Must be nice. He's fully like sold out. Like,
yeah, it was sold out all the way. I do think the podcast thing, I guess this would be a good question for you, because you've done it, quite a bit longer than I have. What made me think about when you said you got to go in deep to find the big deer, that was kind of like a really big push when podcasts started going off. And I've got some experience, out of state hunting, but a lot of the people who are saying that who hunt the Midwest, I've walked a lot of those places, and dude, like it's just so different than in Michigan. And I don't know if this is because there's more variety on their bigger sections of woods, or if it's just a lack of pressure, or there's just more, mature deer or deer spread out over the landscape. I've looked at properties and like, this is the very middle. This area is the farthest away from any road that I can have in, and that could be 3/4 of a mile, that could be 2 miles, whatever. I mean, it's actually pretty tough to be 2 miles away from a road, I feel like, in this area of the state. But I go over there and look, and it's like, this is literally the worst type of like terrain in the whole section. Like, this is not good terrain. This is not good diversity. It's void of deer stuff. Like, I'm not intrigued. So I think it just kind of, some of those guys probably have found those pockets, and maybe in different types of public land, that they probably are right. Like, I've walked it. It's like, this bottom is just gorgeous, this whole bottom. And then you get across this, and it's like, here's the hard edge. And it's like, dude, I'm a mile from the truck, like in Kansas last year. Like, I was a mile from the truck, and it was like, whoa, like, duh, there's deer here. And like, yeah, it's a far walk, but holy cow, it was worth the walk. And I think that's just like what I've kind of struggled to find, those spots in Michigan where I'm like, yes, this is worth walking all the way out here, when I like, some of my spots are only 200 yards off the road, and it's like, that's where I've had pictures of daylight bucks, So I think it's just podcasts like kind of cling on to certain things, and they push it, because that's what gets clicks. And guys are like, oh, all I gotta do is walk far, and I'm gonna have good hunts. And it's like, I try really hard as a podcaster not to fall into that trap of pushing something like that, because I've lived it, and I'm sure you've lived through a lot of it too, and just try to be as real and like normal, I guess, as I can be.
Yeah, I think I think for me, like when we were starting out and like a lot of that stuff, and I mean, I don't discount it. It's just now having done it, I think at the time, like for a lot of it and for a lot of guys, like it was just novel. It was just something that nobody ever talked about, and it never really crossed your mind, right? Because you know, and then you see all these guys that are like more successful. You're talking to these guys that are more successful, that are doing it in public, and this is how they're doing it. But I think what needed to happen, and kind of what we're seeing today, is like everything was like contextual, meaning that the reason that they were successful going that far back wasn't because they were that far back. It's just because they were away from other hunters, and they found good sign where there were no hunters. Like we have all seen, and it's like a very cliche thing, but like you walk the field edge and there's scrapes and scrapes and scrapes, and then there's trail camera, ladder stand, bait pile, you know, and then you go and you find something that looks good on the map, and you go there and there's 3 stands and 2 cell cameras and whatever. You go to somewhere else on the map that looks good, that's somewhat easy to get to, and there's a mock scrape here, and there's, you know, and so what they're doing is, you know, we joke about it like, oh, saddle hunting from a kayak on public land, you know, truck camping, we all of these things, but those are just different like ways to access. And like, I mean, there's a spot that I've hunted a couple of times, and I've had cameras out there, but when I first put the camera out there, there was no hunter sign, there was no anything. And I was accessing, like it sucks. Like I still have a camera out there that I have not gone back to get yet from last year.
I know the spot. You were talking to me about it. I was like,
yeah, yeah. And it's a really good spot. And I think I really honestly believe, like, and I just haven't believed in it enough to go there and spend like a rut there. But I'm very confident, like just the way that it lays out and how cool it is and how far it is away from everything. And like there is private land right by it that they have their own little camp, and I know they've got ladder stands, and I'm sure they have bait on there, but they're not going over onto the public. It's just like, you know, you can tell, like, and maybe they're really sneaky and they hunt with climbers or standing sticks or saddles or whatever, and they go over onto the public and come back. But I would say, like, generally speaking, that's not the case. So I can tell, like, they got all their signs up, they've got their ladder stands that you can see, but like just over the rise, there's a big bog and like a thicket, and then it goes into a cedar swamp, and there's like every kind of diversity that you could have all comes together in this one spot. And about November 14th through the 20th, the cameras are just banging, and I think it's the deer are getting pushed back there. They're rutting, but there's just no pressure. I've had 2 guys on the camera, and one guy did move in there and hunt one of the trees that I would have hunted for this big community scrape that was there. I mean, he picked the right tree, but he left his stand up there. Everything was there. I mean, I know where he parks. Like, if he was there, if I was going to hunt, I knew. And I actually hunted one day when he did come in and hunt, and I'd seen a couple deer, but he was in after me and gone before me. So, like, but I think that's just the thing, is like just finding that spot where nobody wants to go, or it's just tough to get to, because I mean, if you spend enough time on public land, and we found it in Idaho, like I couldn't even tell you how far we were. We were at least 5 miles from any road or anything, crawling over this deadfall, and there was a water bottle, like a down in between this deadfall, and it's like, you think you're the first one to be somewhere, like, forget it, you know?
Yep. Yep. So just thinking about you talking about some of this stuff, do you have any like frustrations, like current frustrations right now? Like maybe it could be podcasting or YouTube videos you've been watching. I know we're kind of like doing our little roam thing, but so maybe, I don't know if you've been spending more time on social media or anything like that. Is there anything that kind of jumps off to you like, oh, here we go again? Or I guess, yeah, any kind of frustrations?
I don't like when people take themselves really seriously, and they want to be, like the authority on something. Like, I feel like the best guys, like, it doesn't matter who you talk to, and I've had the pleasure of I've been very fortunate to be able to talk to a lot of these guys who are just, great hunters, just excellent bow hunters, who are extremely like humble and still learning. And then there's guys that, you're just your feeds are flooded with these guys who are just telling you what to do. Like, this is what you got to do. This is, and I like following along with people's stories, and I like that. But the personalities of being like the authority on something, just kind of like rubs me the wrong way, and I don't know. Maybe it's because like I'm not an expert at anything, so it's like I don't have like, I can't, be like, well, I know everything there is to know about this. But I think that there are people who are not still, they've shifted to like where they're not learning and they want to teach, and they forget that they still don't know everything. Yeah, that's my frustration.
No, I agree. There's some guys, it's like, man, like, who are like, what validation? Like, that's kind of like, I always look into that. Like, sometimes guys will be on a podcast, or I'll see them in social media, and I kind of do a little digging, like, okay, where's this guy at? Where does he live? Where does he, try to figure it out? Because I'm trying to like find relatable stuff. And yeah, definitely don't ever want to come across as the guy that's got this game figured out, because how do you get it? Like, how do you figure it out? Like, there's so much difference, different properties and different, habitat stuff, and how to hunt deer, and like how much time you got, and like, can you bait? Are you going to bait stay? Like, what do you have for trail cam inventory? I mean, you're rocking 100 trail cameras. Like, there's just all this stuff. And when you want to be the source to something like that, it's like, yeah, it's a turnoff. Like, I would agree. Like, there's some guys, it's like, dude, if you're pushing something on me, like, I just want to learn, like, little things. I want to learn. I don't want to be told. I think that's kind of like a thing. Like, maybe that's what you're kind of going towards, too. Like, there's a difference between someone, like, trying to explain a situation like on a YouTube video or something, or be like, you must do it this way because this is the way to grow a deer, or this is the way to shoot a big buck, or this is the way to be successful. It's like, no, just teach me little things.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's like everybody's got something to sell, like they want to do. It's like, I don't know, and I think there's enough of that out there.
Yes,
like I think. How does it apply, and like whatever, and like just like, again, like being the authority. But I want to ask you then, since you're starting to do filming and all this stuff, and I know because you reached out to me that you listened to the last podcast, are you going to be the like public land crossbow guy? Is that
well, should I do it with turkeys? Like, I actually did think about that earlier. Maybe I should just go kill a turkey with a crossbow, be the guy that's doing that.
Yeah, well, but I think you've already established yourself as like not credible in that, because all of your hunts have been like, my dad seen him from the bathroom window while he was taking a shit.
Yep.
And he said he's out there, so get the crossbow, Henry.
Yeah, get the crossbow.
You're gonna film Dad, okay?
Hey, in my defense, the turkey was pretty far away from where he first saw it. I know, but it does help to get eyes on something. Yeah, the crossbow, the comments on Instagram were pretty funny with Josh talking about, you guys going through the system. Like, if you do 10 push-ups, you can, use a rest for your crossbow attack. And like, if you can't laugh about that, man, we can't be friends. That was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, and like I said on the podcast, like Frank had one for a while, and he's like, it was terrible. You talked about like having to carry all the stuff for turkey hunting, like just carrying one of them big ass things. But I was thinking about it. Okay, this is just because I think you've been to the Latitude place, right?
Yes.
So they have one there, and Jake was using it. Like I think maybe that's Jake's.
Oh,
that's Jake's.
Push
Jake Metallic.
Yeah, push Jake.
He's
for that.
the super public land, because they do boat access, public land, multi-state.
Yep.
They already have a Raven crossbow.
A crossbow tour and just kill everything with that. But it's got to be over 50 yards. Like every kill shot's over 50. I'm just playing. Oh shoot. I think, every time the crossbow or anything comes up, it's like, dude, we just have like our things we're talking about. Like, yes, it's legal, but that doesn't mean I have to be like, yeah, I'm totally for it. Like, there's a lot of laws that I don't agree with, right? Like in my day-to-day life. And the crossbow thing is kind of a hot topic thing. I think cell cameras can get thrown there. Thermal drones can get thrown there. Like, well, we can't talk about our feelings and like what we think. And there's some valid points on both sides with it. And I think that's just a good way to kind of like self-police ourselves, because things can get out of hand really quick, and the same thing with like bait piles and like all this stuff. It's like, hey, where do you fall in this thing? And like crossbow hunting to me is, I think me and you share probably a very similar mindset. Like, I think it's a great tool for killing whitetails. Great. Like my brother-in-law, I own a crossbow because of my brother-in-law. Like, he had brain surgery. It crushed him that he could not pull back his compound. Like 2 weeks before season, he's been shooting his bow all year. Like, he's been going through a lot with that stuff, and had the surgery that came up out of nowhere, crushed, right? Like, dude, get a crossbow. Let's get you a crossbow. He gets the crossbow and shoots his first buck with archery equipment, and it was a crossbow kill, right? And that to me is a win. Like, crossbows made that possible for my brother-in-law to go out and enjoy the outdoors and do those things. But like, if you're a dude that can go do a bunch of push-ups and you can do manual labor and do all that, like, you're missing that magical moment of pulling a bow back and launching an arrow. And I think that's what we try to like. It's like there's something to that art of archery that you're missing with a crossbow, and I can express that to, we're in America, right? So I think it's cool. A lot of little kids get started with shooting crossbows. I think I've been trying to get my grandpa to use a crossbow for a decade, and he refuses to. He's only ever been a gun hunter. I'm like, Grandpa, man, you could be hunting so much more than he hunts quite a bit with a gun, but it's like you're missing. He's like, nah, I don't want to use that. I'm just using my gun. So I think it's made for that reason, and it's a hot topic, and you got some good traction with that, and I thought it was pretty funny. But also, I think it was good just to just talk about it, like get some guys thinking, like, where are we stand with this stuff? I mean, there's a lot of things we can roll that right into deer management in Michigan. There's so much stuff, like we can't just rely on political agendas and stuff like that. We have to kind of self-police ourselves, I feel like, a little bit.
What do you think man, I don't even know how to say it without. So the people who are like the crossbow lovers, I have no idea how to say it. Like the advocates for crossbows, and there's the people that are like the hunt your hunt. Who cares if it's legal? But why do they? I mean, obviously, you and I both, and I think most of the people that are having this conversation, they all love hunting. Do the people who are hunt your hunt, do they love hunting so much that they want everybody to do it no matter what? That Or is it they just don't want government regulation, or they don't want somebody else telling them what to do? Like, but that's my question about it. Like, why is it such a big deal? In devil's advocate, you could say the other way. Like, why is it such a big deal to you? Well, I mean, I think you could say that you don't have to pull it back. So I don't think that you would, I think that they're different things. I think that they are not the same. The way that they operate is different. The way that, if you were to like patent one and have to write out all the mechanical things of it, they're not equal. Mm-hmm. And so I think that would be my argument as to why I think that there should be a different season or, whatever. But again, like I said on that podcast, like, it's just the way that it reads to me. It reads of someone who is not serious about it. It reads to me the guy who has a bait pile, even though it's not legal. It's the guy that leaves his stand up for, 15 years on public land because that's his spot, which, technically it can be his spot, but it's not his spot. He can't claim, It just reads to me as that is the guy that is crossbow hunting in archery season. And I guess I have to caveat the whole thing when you said like that your brother-in-law shot it with archery equipment, and I would disagree. He shot it with a crossbow. So not archery equipment.
Archery season was what I should have said.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think the hunt your hunt people are like, hey, it's legal, leave them alone. We all got to be together. We all got to, we're all fighting the same fight. Like, I get the mindset there, but also like I want to surround myself with people who challenge me a little bit, right? Like, I want to be challenged. I want to be told, man, dude, what are you doing? Like, oh, well, what do you mean? What am I doing? Like, you can do better. Or like, where are you? Like, I always want to be climbing the ladder. And I think like crossbows is just like it's the thing that it attracts a certain type of person. Not every person, like, right? I'm not trying to like say everyone who uses a crossbow is this way. I don't think that's the case. But man, it allows people to shoot critters at really far distances. My buddy Tony, who made fun of me for being on speed dial, can testify to how many people he's tracked that use a crossbow that shoot extremely far with a crossbow. Don't get me wrong, I've launched some arrows pretty far with the compound too, but this is like distances I never dream about doing. And it gives, I've heard so many stories about guys shooting stuff out of vehicles with crossbows. I've heard a lot of poaching being done with crossbows. It just kind of opens the door for some of those things that I don't really like. Like, I just don't like that. I don't want to partake in that. Like, so to me, it's like the crossbow does open that door. So like, if that thing's illegal, or it only can be used in this season, maybe I'll kind of cut back on some of that a little bit. And maybe that's good. I think that's a good thing. Also, I love archery hunting. Like, I'm passionate about archery hunting, and I think the difference between a compound and a crossbow is way more than the difference between a compound and a trad bow. Like, just in the mechanics, like you're saying, all that stuff. And I just don't like it. Like, I don't like the fact that it's just like, it's statewide because of why. Why did that become a law? Probably because of money. Like, that's why it became a law. So just because it was done for that reason, cool. But then I go back to the other way where I've talked about this. Like, is it negatively impacting our deer herd? Is the introduction of crossbows being legal, is it detrimental to my deer hunting or detrimental to the deer herd in general? Until it's like, we're killing way too many deer, it's going good, it's not going to go anywhere. Like, I don't think. And it's just like, gosh, is it really hurting my day-to-day life? No. Like, so you kind of go back, when you were kind of talking a little bit today, it's like, I want to get to point A, and does this stuff really matter to help me from get to point A? Yes or no? And it's like, does crossbows really inhibit my ability to get to point A? Not really, but I don't really like it, so I'm going to express my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things in there, like A, you can't say I don't want crossbows because I don't like it. Like, that it's not a good take. It's really hard to defend.
But that's where the original reaction comes from, right? Like,
I understand.
It's like that's the origin of it, and it's like that's kind of selfish.
But then also, like your other argument is worse, because what it told me is that you're for more gun control.
Yes.
Because the fact that people have guns, that means there could be more crime or more killing. So, because criminals follow the rules and we just need to get rid of all the guns. I mean, that's what I heard. I heard Nate doesn't like it and he wants more government overreach on things that could be illegal.
Why is the left side of me kind of like hurt right now? I feel like the left side's kind of getting it here. I agree wholeheartedly. Like, it's just like you got to take that, and that's emotion talking, right? That's just like me just spouting off a little bit. And I wish if it was easy to figure this out, it would be done by now. But man, if I want to razz someone for using a crossbow opposed to using a bow, like I can do that. And maybe they'll pick up a compound. I know someone right now on top of my head that I razzed him like the smallest amount, and that dude picked up a compound the next year and shot a buck with a compound year 1 or year 2. And dude, to share that moment with him was so cool, and just hear him talk about it, it's like, that was awesome. Like he shot a really good buck with a crossbow, and he shot a really good buck with his compound. And guess what he's using right now? Compound. Because he's like, dude, it was just. He's like, it's just a different experience, and you can't really put words to it until you experience it. But that dude's like, he's wired a little different. Like, and like we're not all wired the same. We don't all want to hunt the same. And some guys like to just go sit out in their spot. No one's going to tell me that the corn tree ain't dropping corn this year. I'm going to sit down there and shoot my deer. Like, how do you push back on that? I don't really know. I don't know how to do it. And do I like it? No, I don't like it. But then I'm, getting critiqued over here by my takes. So I gotta.
Well, I mean, that one is, it's pretty easy. There's a culture of baiting in Michigan that had been for years, and then. There's I don't know. There's wonky science about CWD, and then you got all your conspiracy theorists and all these other things. So, and then the argument of like they can't eat the corn over here, but they can eat the corn that's left in the fields. And so I mean. Those types of arguments are one thing, and I guess I would go back to like the crossbow thing just on one thing is like you talked about that guy who shot one, moved to a compound. I can also see like, and I don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily like a hunt your hunt take, but just someone who's like not, it doesn't have, I don't want to say like resources, but doesn't have like a mentor or anybody, so he just wants to go hunting, knows that the crossbow will be there's a lower barrier of entry kind of, and just like you were telling your grandpa, it's a longer season, so I want to learn to hunt. I'll have more days to learn to hunt than just going into gun season. I don't know anything about compounds. I don't have anybody to teach me, so I'm going to take this crossbow out and do it and then see if I like it or whatever, and maybe in your mind, you think I have less chance of wounding one or something like that. So if you had like a archery learner's permit and you got a crossbow couple years or something, like, again, I think that would be like somewhat reasonable.
Yeah.
But,
the whole dynamic of archery just has changed so rapidly, like with that crossbow. Like you talk to pro shops and stuff, like that would be where I'd say, hey, like if you want to get into archery, you don't know, you go, where would you go? Before crossbows, you go to the local archery range, you'd find a place, and them guys would set you up, and you could get shooting, you could be proficient, learn. That was like your resource, right? And now, like, it's a lot has changed in the pro shop game. I still think there's some really good pro shops around, but like the landscape has changed. So like I am guilty of what you just said. I have had people where I've encouraged them to use a crossbow because they want to get into it, and I am like, well. Maybe it's a selfish reason. Maybe it's just because I'm not educated enough. But it's like, if I know that if they get set up with a crossbow, it's like you go to the shop one time, get your crossbow, you can come over to my house. I will show you how to use it a few times, and you're lethal, right? Like it's easier to be lethal. And instead of like, hey, here's this compound. Hey, you should probably get these arrows. Hey, let's go tune this bow for you. Hey, let's do all this. Hey, you should probably be shooting that thing, pretty consistently. So when it comes to October 1st, you're ready to go. Like that's a lot more work in my busy life, right? So I've been guilty of that. And I think that's just kind of like crossbows being legal in archery season has opened the door for that. And this is where we are. And it's just like I'm guilty of it. Like I've told guys that can't shoot a compound worth crap, like, hey, you should go buy a crossbow because I'm kind of sick of tracking all these deer for you. So I've done that one too. So I mean, I'm right in the mix, man. I'm right in the mix with the whole thing, and it's just
it sounds like Nate's just like on whoever's side.
Whatever makes my life easier. I'm all about
but it's just like whoever's the they're talking with. He's like, yeah, I'm for crossbows. Absolutely. No, I don't like crossbows. This depends on who you're talking to.
It does. Like I'm a chameleon, man.
Yeah. You want to know what frustrates me in the space? The guys that don't have a solid stance on something.
Yep. You got to please everyone over here. I know. But if you gave me like a magic wand and if I could change the regs like in one way, I mean, I would get rid of crossbows in archery season. What would you do, I guess, across Michigan if you had that ability?
I mean, I suppose that I would give them either like their own season or put them in with muzzleloaders, or use it as a revenue generator, as some other states do, and say you got to pay $20 to use a crossbow or $50 to use a crossbow. And maybe that doesn't change anything, but at least there's a penalty. There's a candy ass tax that goes along with, like you make them wear pink during bow season.
Yes.
Like,
oh, that's hilarious.
Something like that. Like,
that's funny. Would you do anything with a gun season? Would you change opening day if you had the magic wand?
I mean, yes, but it would be way different than what you're saying. Like, because if I had a magic wand, I would go back in time and change it so that the culture, so I didn't mess up the culture.
Yeah.
Because the November 15th gun season, like, however you feel about gun season, gun hunting, whatever, like, that is Michigan deer hunting culture. Unequivocally, that's what it is. So the only way to change it would be to move it when it started so that the tradition would be Thanksgiving weekend, or it would be something like that. Now, if I were to change it, I would change it to like something reasonable, like the last Friday or the third Friday in November, so that it was always it started same time. You didn't have a Monday opener, a Wednesday opener, or anything like that. It was always the same. And maybe you shorten the season down, maybe not, but I don't even know that there's any like real good data for that. I mean, Matt in the Patreon group is probably the best one to like answer the question like off the top of his head, but like realistically, like the amount of deer that are killed in those first like 3 days of a gun season is like more than, the remainder of the season. Yeah, it's more deer in the first 2 days, I think, than all of archery season, all of the rest of the season after. It's crazy. Yeah. So like I said, you could shorten the season down, but that may just be selfish or just like for optics, because I don't necessarily know that it has that giant of an impact. Like, what would it really change? It would just piss people off. Yeah. Would you? I love November 15th. I'm fully consumed by the culture of that. Like, I will push back an out-of-state trip to be able to hunt in Michigan on November 15th. Like, that's just. Yeah. But I'm the private land life guy, right? So. Yeah, but I had that too, and that's how I grew up. and it just became like, you know, you had differences of opinions and things like that, different hunting styles, and and it just, when I started bow hunting like more seriously, and then I was getting into arguments about hunting styles or whatever with people, and I had set 30 sits already before they even like dusted their gun case off, like it just wasn't worth it. It didn't mean that much to me.
Yeah.
As much as like the actual hunting did. And like, I think that's where like the love for like the actual, like true, like deer camp comes in, is where it isn't just about like, it's not just about the killing. It's not just about the, like the tradition, but it's about the whole thing. It's about the hunt. It's about the experience. It's about the having like-minded or like open minds. Because that's what it was like when I was younger. But then, like I said, like I found myself like arguing with people who like were just, it was their one day of the year, one weekend of the year, 1 week of the year to hunt. And like, it was just like, we're not the same people, All
right. Would you do a velvet hunt in Michigan?
I see, I don't even know the like purpose of that.
To get a velvet buck, man.
No, but I mean, it's just like such a foreign thing. Like in it, like Tennessee, like it's only on private land. There's a bunch of states that have like private land hunts, or some of the seasons, like they have like just a velvet hunt. But if you're going to have a velvet hunt, like why the hell wouldn't you just open the season there? Like some of these other states do. Like, why just open it up for 3 days in September? Like who gives a shit? Like
just have it open then and be open like September 1st opener or something. Like just have it happen.
To be realistic, like if Michigan wants to kill more deer and they want to give you all these things, like why not do that? But I mean, like, when you talk about like, deer herds, herd health, all this stuff, like there's very little that I know about why it would be significant to do that, other than like as a sportsman or a hunter, where it would be cool to kill a deer that was in velvet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only desire I have to kill a whitetail in velvet is like western like states, like wide open prairie, spot and stalk, like velvet buck would be kind of cool. But other than that, like not much desire to shoot one here in Michigan in velvet for me. And man, I really liked hunting until January 31st with my bow this year. That was fun because I was in one of those counties where I could do that. I kind of hope that's to stay a little bit, because it was kind of fun, like doing some like cold, like 8 degrees and windy, like archery hunts on, on a food source or on a food plot. Like it was a lot of fun to do that. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing, but like here they come, and like really good opportunities to shoot some more does. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. It must be nice, to be, no, just kidding. But like this year would have been like the, because you were like, oh, you could come hunt, like still hunt in Kent County, and like, because in years past it was always like on the other side of the state, so
yes,
like, it had kind of migrated over towards us. But by that time, like we'd already killed 5 deer, and it was like, I mean,
yeah, you're like, I'm good. You're like, I'm good.
You're just like, yeah, like as fun as that sounded, Nate, and all I could think of in my head was like you like sitting up in that spot you were talking about, like behind your dad's house, where you were watching him go through the thing where the food plot was. But like you can like literally see in your dad's back window, he's like holding up a pot of coffee, like, are you cold?
Yeah, it's like,
you're like, it's not like you have to like get down, walk all the way out, all this stuff. Like you just start your truck from the tree.
Oh, that'd be great.
By the time you get back, like that's what I picture in my head from like that life.
Yeah. Come to the other side a little bit. You can see, come to the other side.
Yeah. I don't know. Like none of that really like super like interests me until it does. Like, it's like when you haven't shot any deer and you're like, oh man, like, because I've hunted in like some terrible conditions, like all the way to, till January 1st, still trying to shoot a deer, still trying to shoot a buck. And like I say, this year we just had killed a bunch of deer, so it wasn't like all that necessary. But I'm one of those guys that, I love it so much, like to grind it out, but it's really hard, for like freezer space, but then, like family life, like, and even for your own self, like for me killing, 4 deer this year was like more deer than I've ever killed, and then Stella kills one too to top that off. And my wife's like, what the hell are you doing? Like and last year I hunted so many states and whatnot, she's, there had to be some concession where, but that's not to say that this upcoming year I'll have no deer, or, Stella's killed one and I'm at 0. And, I'd be out there in the same 8 degrees. But I think that's one thing that I think is interesting about that time of year. And like when you can go back and listen to like Dan Infalt stuff. And he says like, if, I think it was Wired to Hunt, where he picked all the guys like Andy May, Dan Infalt, like some of the other guys. And they're like, he's like, what's the day if you had to pick one day to kill a big buck or whatever? And he always says the last day of the season, because it's so easy to find the deer, find the food source. I think if I was going to do that, I would, that would be like the way to do it. Like, just like you were hunting on public land, like out of state, go drive around, verify that there's a deer that you want to kill, or that there's still deer around and that they're using that food source, and then go sit it. I don't think I would be like prospecting like in the wind and 8 degrees, I would want like some assurances.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, here they come. Like, it's like, holy cow, they just came out of the woodworks and they're all trying to get to the food because it's, weather drives them that time of year. Just a different type of hunt.
So I hunted one time up in the UP, and my brother-in-law was up there. So it had to have been after Thanksgiving, but it was like one of these years where it was like a lot of snow, super cold. And like, we can bait up there, but this was 10 years ago, easy. And when you said like, here they come, right? So I was sitting in this blind, and I had like more than 20 deer, like on every side. And I'm talking, this is Cedar Swamp. This isn't like they were out there at 100 yards. These deer are in bow range. And I'm sitting in this, like it was a blind that was like slightly bigger than like an outhouse, like with the same shape. And my sister ended up shooting a deer, her first deer. And, she called me on the radio, because we had like the walkie-talkies, and she's like, I just shot one. And I'm like, well, I got 400 deer in front of me, so I'm going to be here until dark. And then my brother-in-law actually went and helped her out. But yeah, that's funny. She shot this deer that was like the size of a fox.
Oh, man.
But that was her first deer. And just memorable, so.
But, no, I think if that, oh man, I don't know what else to change. We got all this stuff going on with, Michigan, and trying to do some different things and maybe support down in Lansing when we have these meetings and stuff. And it's, I'm trying to figure out where and what I kind of feel. And there's like, is it regulation changes? Is it this? Is it that? It's like, man, I don't know. I just know I want to be a little more invested in it. Kind of like turkey hunting, right? Like, I am intrigued. I got to kind of like get into this. I don't know enough, but I'm here. I'm here for it, and I'll keep absorbing. And hopefully 5 years down the road or 3 years down the road, I'll be like, hey, I'm proficient in the tree color. Oh, I kind of got to pull some what the heck's going on with the the NRC or the DNR or whatever. That's at least what I'm kind of thinking of. So,
yeah, I think so. Next week's podcast, I'm sitting down with Josh and Jordan
nice.
from and we're gonna kind of go through some of that stuff, and I'll get some more information on when that next meeting is. I think it's like May 9th.
May 8th, I
is
believe.
It the 8th?
Yep.
I think I'm off that day, so I'm considering going there. So maybe you can do the same. We'll get up in the morning, we'll go kill a turkey, and then drive to Lansing, attend the meeting.
We got to be there by 9:30 though, so it'd be
we got to roost them then.
Roost them, and then I'll just sit there. But you gotta let me call. They like to come in really quick. I'm not calling. So.
yeah. But I think that's kind of all I had to talk about today. I mean, it's been. We went down some rabbit holes there.
That's what's fun.
But,
that's what's fun.
That's all right. No, that's the good part. But we're sitting here at like 2 hours. So,
oh jeez.
Yeah, it's always fun. But Nate Rozeveld, Michigan Wild Podcast, Michigan Wild Pod. That's what I always want to call it. This Michigan Wild.
I know.
Pod
I kind of like Michigan Wild Pod. That's what it is on Instagram. Michigan Wild Pod.
Yep.
You can call me that.
Yep. So that's where they can find you.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Instagram.
Go over. You can see his rabbit hunt on the Rome Syndicate YouTube channel, and give that a follow. And lots more to come with that. I'm sure we'll be updating that here.
I got that hog. We didn't even talk about my hog hunt. We could have, I guess, talked about that. But I got some footage that I'm kind of semi-compiled up for that. So hopefully that'll be on the YouTube channel before too long.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Nate. Appreciate it. I will talk with you later.
Yeah, I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. So
yeah,
see ya.
Absolutely. All right.
Create stories for life on a scenic Eclipse Mediterranean voyage. With Scenic, it's more than a journey of a lifetime. It's ultra-luxury cruising along elegant European Rivieras and idyllic Italian coastlines. It's being immersed in the history and culture of glamorous cities, towns, and villages. It's colorful architecture, landscapes, and regional cuisine. Scenic Eclipse, in a class of its own. Book your all-inclusive voyage now and save.
Gear up for the hunt and learn from the best with Deer and Deer Hunting Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Waypoint TV. Tune in every week for expert hunting tips and unforgettable moments in the field. Waypoint TV, your destination for outdoor entertainment.